Hello and welcome to a special segment of a chat with Chief Basharun Shehindi Arugbofa. He is an author and also an Afenifere chieftain. I am Angela Daku. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
Well, today's topic we'll be talking about the lessons learned and unlearned in Nigeria 62 years after independence. Sir, going back to history, the pomp and pageantry that accompanied the celebration of the Independence Day, and as people anticipated a beautiful nation, this definitely has not left the minds of many Nigerians who were present at the time. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a youth at that time?
When we were having our independence, I was already imparting knowledge in one of our secondary schools in the state. And this is a grammar school, to be specific, as a school leaver. I'm getting ready for my university education in University College Ibadan. So I knew and was conscious of all that was happening. Nigeria as a whole, we were really very happy. We enjoyed the struggles of our founding fathers. Chief Awolowo, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Sadana of Sokoto, and some other leaders who led the battle. And so we're all full of hopes. Especially we younger ones. Very happy and expecting a wonderful world. So many things to be tapped. Looking up to the skies. Everybody, as if we're just waking up a new dawn. That was what it was then, until a few things started happening. And things started going down. And eventually we find ourselves where we are today.
Such a beautiful story. Although prior to independence, Nigeria was regarded as a high flyer, whereby Nigeria was regarded as a high flyer prior to independence. And you discovered that Nigerians had so much potentials, ranging from business ideas. They were so good with education and intellectuals, and even down to military and even the political leadership of the country. So what went wrong?
A few things really went wrong. After independence, there was a feeling of insincerity amongst our leaders. And the insincerity stayed there. To start with, it was like bringing together people with different backgrounds, different ideas, different approaches to life. And of course, our founding fathers knew this. It was a complex, heterogeneous society. And so they bargained for a federal system of government where every region, so to say, would be equal to the other, and where the federal government would play a kind of senior partner, the type we call in Latin primus inter pares, that is, being first among equals. We discovered that when Balewa became the Prime Minister and Zik the Governor General, I think, and of course Papa Awolowo became the opposition leader. Even though they were still together, there were signs that all might not be well. Because no sooner than the government was put in place than things that should not be done in the federal system were coming up. Things like nepotism, things like tribalism, things like non-inclusiveness, which are alien to a true federal system of government. And of course, that led to the death of the First Republic, leading to the coups and other things like that. And ever since the attempt to have a true federal system by restructuring this country the way our founding fathers wanted, the attempt has not been successful. And that is what is happening today.
Well, many still hold it in their memories of a structured country where the regions at that time, created revenues for themselves, and they grew according to their own pace. Talk about the era of Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Sardauna. Exactly. So, if these structures were credible at the time, why is it not still used now?
They were credible, and they should be credible, because that is how it should be. That is how things should be. When people from different backgrounds, when they meet, that is how things should be. We must understand one another, checks and balances. But the moment one tries to be smarter than the other, the confidence is lost. We lose confidence in one another. Let me give an illustration.
Okay.
Time it was when, in the educational curriculum, it was almost being made compulsory for you to be a true Nigerian, to be able to master your own mother tongue and another major Nigerian language. The feeling there was to make sure that you are a Nigerian, and that communication, that you can't deceive. You will be at home in at least two of the major ethnic groups in this country. Such will reduce ethnic bias. Such will bring communication nearer. And as was being said then, nigbati, or whenever anybody wanted to make fun of an Igbo man, you want to be very cautious, because
he might understand you.
You will understand what you are saying. And because our leaders, they were trying to bring us together. But the situation where we don't recognize that we have different tribes, different cultures, different backgrounds. And like it was done during the first military era, to have a kind of unitary system. That type of situation cannot work in a heterogeneous society like Nigeria. Never. It can't work.
Why can't it work?
Oh, because I'm different from you. You are different from me. And we have to give room for everybody to exist if you all want to be together. You can't impose your ideas on me. You can't impose your culture on me. No, I won't take it. So the best thing is to understand me. Then I understand you. Then we come together. But the moment you say that it is your own, that must be forced down to everybody, you are losing track.
Well, considering your active participation in politics as at 1960s, how would you compare the politics of then and now?
Is that politics now? Are you playing politics now? When within a year you can belong to as many as 3 or 4 political parties, do you call that politics? Obviously, no. Then, in the good old days, if you wanted to go into any political party, You must weigh the manifesto, the program of the party, the philosophy. And you must be ready to explain to the people through your manifesto what you want to do. A political party must have a manifesto. How many of the so-called parties we have today have manifestos? I don't know. I haven't seen one.
Well, they claim they have manifestos and they come out to proclaim some of them.
If they claim it, it's not the reality. Let them bring it out. Let them bring it out. Let them tell the public. You must have the manifesto. What you want to do, how you want to do it, how you want to get the resources for people to talk about, to criticize. When Awolowo was there, his was based on 4 cardinal programs. Free education, free health, employment for all able bodies, integrated rural development. So you can know for exactly where you're going and what this man wants to do. So let them come out with their manifestos. If there's a manifesto, how can within a year, and you say a politician, can mean about 3 or 4 political parties? No, that is not politics. They are jobbers. Most of them are jobbers. They don't have any vision.
Well, with the current state of Nigeria as we see it and the whole situation around it, will you say that Nigeria is actually living that expectation of an independent nation?
Well, being independent, from my own point of view, is different from being democratic. If you have a democratic society, it means you are free to practice a lot of things as long as they don't endanger the other person. Freedom of worship or choice of worship, freedom of speech like we have, and a host of other things like that. That is democracy. That is, if it is working. And talking of independence, well, that is being free from bondage, maybe from foreign bondage, like we had in 1960, freedom from the white rule, and so on and so forth. So there are 2 different things. Democracy is quite different from independence. In Nigeria, we became free as far back as 1960. But democracy has been eluding us. The democratic principles are not there for most of the time. I've just mentioned one. In democracy, you have a choice to make a choice of things. In democracy, you don't force your ideas on people. You allow others to make their choices and breathe. In a democratic system, you don't get one race trying to impose its will on the other race. In a democratic system, you don't get some of the things happening in the country now. Where, for example, specifically, some bandits or if you like, some herdsmen are trying to forcibly eject people from their ancestral homes. That is not democracy. Although we may have our independence. We refer to such as internal colonization. Internal colonization. What is happening in the country now is not the best. But like I've always said, we have a head of state that is very powerful. In fact, the head of state of Nigeria is one of the most powerful in the world. He has everything at his disposal. The Constitution favors him. The Senate, the House of Rep, they favor him. He is in the control of the army. The police, I mentioned it. If he wants Nigeria to be better, he can do it within a second. He can. Because he has the powers. If he has a strong will to do it, he can. And we're still waiting for him. He can do it. Overnight, things can be better. This is the conviction of some of us. Say it and do it, and let's see him doing that. Yes. Our head of state is one of the most powerful rulers in the world. He has all the means. All the means.
But from your own perspective, where would you say the issue of tribalism started from and the vision of the nation?
Well, as to tribalism, look, if you have a good government, the issue of tribalism will evaporate. When I was in the system, and as president of the Nigerian Conference of Principals of Secondary Schools of this state, and we are meeting all over the federation, all the states chairmen. And at a point in time, I became the first vice president of the national thing. Nobody was talking of tribes. We were talking about our education. We were talking about how the country could be better. We were looking like brothers and sisters. Today, some of us will be in Ondo State. Tomorrow, Bauchi. The other day, Kaduna. The issue of tribalism doesn't arise. But tribalism started rearing its ugly head when people became very nepotism. When you're in office, you're in power. I would think more of your own people. You don't think that others exist. You fill key offices and the people with your own tribe. Of course, other people will start raising eyebrows about such a situation. If you, as the head of state, you can't see the others, you can't see yourself as being the ruler of all the others. You can't be free with everybody. You don't distribute what you have fairly. Look, as a father or a mother, if you're not fair to everybody concerned, what are you doing? There are places of tribalism at that level. And that is the problem we're having. Such a thing would, of course, destroy what we mean by the vision. You can have a clear vision if you are partial. You can't have a clear vision if you are not fair to all concerned. You can have a fair vision if you don't see the system you are running. If, for example, you are the head of state, you don't see yourself as just being the first among equals, that the other governors have a right to exist. That the other governors have a right to develop what they have in their states and make sure that life is better through what they have. You can't be fair to all concerned if, for example, your God-given materials You can't spend it to make the lives of the people you are governing better. And we've been saying this. What do you need to do? Just give a percentage, a great percentage, pay to the center, and allow the governors to spend the remaining, providing jobs for the teeming crowd, providing roads, providing quality education, providing good health care for the people, and leaving just a few important things to the center, like the currency, the defense, and things like that. That is when we can realize the type of vision our founding fathers had. So tribalism cannot allow the vision to reach its destination.
So what will you say concerning a structure where a state cannot access its own natural resources except with the approval of the federal government?
That is exactly what I've said. That the best thing is for this country to be restructured in such a way as to make every state be part of the system, and for the center to be like a senior brother, where every state will be able to develop at its own pace. What you have in your state, to use it to develop your state, where a kind of general percentage of what you have is sent to the center, and the rest is left for you to take care of the governance of your state. You will see tremendous changes if this is to be employed. This will be embarked upon. Then, this type of unemployment will no longer be there. Insecurity will be reduced. Because every state will now have its own state police. It's a little, I'm happy to hear things that are happening now. The northern governors, northern elders of recent, what we are told came out with a decision that the federal government should allow states to have their state police. This is what we've been talking about for more than 30 years. Awolowo started it. Because how do you bring somebody from, say, Bauchi, a police officer from Bauchi, Nigerian police officer, to a place like Idanre Hill or Idanre? How can he understand the topography? How can he understand the people? But if it's from this state and it's within the state police, yes. We are not saying that the Nigerian police should not exist. They should exist side by side, even including local government police or whatever you call them. Every one of them will know its limits. We know its structure and things like that. But for security purposes, we should have a state police. So if every state is allowed to develop at its own pace, there will be healthy competition, like we have in America. Every state, every governor will have the competitive spirit to work harder than the other, to try to meet up. And those that have more than enough will be magnanimous to assist the others. And if they like, you can have a kind of cluster of states coming together to think of how they can improve their communities. But a state where a governor has to depend on the federal government before he can do all these things, has not gone well and may not have gone well. A state where at the end of the month, the governor will have to be like somebody in a rat race to Abuja to collect something from what he had earlier on put down there. It's not the best. A state where the governor of a state can't give an instruction to his own policemen to act when there's a security breach. It's definitely not the best. A state where the governor of a state has to depend on instruction from the center before it does a lot of things. It doesn't give room for any initiative. And once you don't have an initiative, you are on the road to being dead. And that is what we're having now.
Well, still talking about the state policing, many people, just as you have said, have seen it as a good way or the perfect way of curbing insecurity in Nigeria and some of those issues that we have. But yet again, some people fear that giving arms to such people, state policemen, might actually be a problem because they fear top officials might want to use them for their own personal interests.
Let us start. We have to start from somewhere. And if there are excesses, the excesses will be curbed. You can't say because we have a few isolated cases of excesses, therefore we should not do the right thing. No. Once we start, the challenges start coming up. And if the challenges come up, in fact, without challenges, we can't move. So that is the fear of the unknown that is worrying them. And they have to be educated. You see, it's the fear of the unknown. Which system is ab initio very good? Is it the federal police that is good now? The same weaknesses they are afraid of, are they not existing? And yet, don't we have the Nigerian police force? So let us start, and if there are weaknesses, will they be spotted and tackled? It's the fear of the unknown, and it's just human.
Well, we have found ourselves in Nigeria where the deficit has grown to $103.3 billion in the second quarter of this year due to high inflation and so many other problems faced in the economy. So what is your own opinion of fuel subsidy in Nigeria and also deficit management?
I'm sorry, I'm not an economist. I've heard a few things, pros and cons. But even those at the helm of powers, are they showing the true leadership in the management of what they have? Discipline must start from the top. So, if those at the top are doing the right thing, there are so many stories about all these things, and it is only the economists that can really fix them. There are, only yesterday, I was listening to a television program where a gentleman was saying that only a few people, that the whole thing was has been so mismanaged, so many things that only even some security people are those that can be brought together to say this or that. So it is unfortunate, but don't forget, time it was when this country had some financial experts. And things are not as bad. When Obasanjo was there, they had a good team, experts, the Wheeler type of people. And they were able to tackle the economy, the oil issue, and some other things like that. I think the problem we are having is it appears as if we have lost the will to do the right thing in this country. Look, we set up panels for this, for that. how many of the results do we bring into use at the end of the day? How many? If we don't use them to correct the situation, where do we go from there? I'm not an expert in economy, but we all know that all is not well. They say that they talk of oil theft. Wow. That stinks. It stinks. But if we have discipline, we can curb it.
How do you think we can actually curb oil theft in Nigeria? Because it has been a rising issue recently.
Like I've said, I'm not an expert in that type of thing, but if there is discipline, we don't even know what to do with that sector. Today we set up this panel, another we set this panel. Tomorrow we give it what you already said, one name and the other, but it's a kind of a dangerous circle. We're just dancing around and around and around. This group will come today, take whatever it has, go away, another will come, and so on and so forth. The discipline is not there. We don't have it. We don't have it. That is the problem.
Well, moving away from the oil sector, now the federal government recently has dragged ASU to court, and they also did the same thing to residence doctor earlier before ASU's case. So do you think this move is actually justified, even if it is legal under the Labour Act?
What I don't want to go into the arguments of who is right or wrong in this matter. But I think enough is enough. My appeal to the federal government to look into this case of ASU. ASU is not just thinking of itself alone. It's thinking about the welfare of this country, the future of our children, most of whom have been at home for the last 7 months, some of whom have turned into bad citizens. ASU is saying that let's give the children the best education we can. ASU is asking the government, give us the materials to make these children better. ASU is saying that our laboratories equip them so that we can produce better doctors than we have now. ASU is saying that let our children have a future in Nigeria. I think ASU is being patriotic. The issue of saying no work, no pay, we want to beg the government not to make that. The government should have a rethink. ASU must be given a soft landing. Members are talking of salaries, yes. And I think this is the right time for our governments to look at the salary structures of its workers. Pay people according to the value of the service rendered. According to the value of the service. There are some countries where teachers aren't higher than their presidents because of the quality and values of what they are to the government. So if ASU is making some comparison, yes, but this thing should be done in all its ramifications. We want to play with the government to bring ASU back to the negotiation table. And as early as possible, have an understanding so that all these our children can go back to school. The government can do it. The government has the means. It should see education as a priority. And once it sees education as a priority, all will be well. the government should bring us to, once again, to the discussion table and get things ironed out. And in doing so, I will plead with ASU to see where they can give a kind of, they can reconsider. I'm not saying doing things was where they can go back and work harder than they have been doing so that we can come back to something near the good old days, the 60s especially, when our universities were a pride to the nation and to the world. When the University of Ibadan was ranked with Oxford, Cambridge, and Harvard. So we plead with the government to bring ASU back to the negotiation table.
Well, this brings me to another aspect entirely. In a bid to resolve the issues of Nigeria, at some point, conferences have been held. And 2014 confab, in which you were present in, there were so many recommendations given, over 600 recommendations. Can you tell us some of these recommendations and why or how they were supposed to be used to track Nigeria back?
Thank you for acknowledging that I was there, yes. We were there for 3 months, and it was a very good meeting of all Nigerians, all tribes, both high and low, X this, X that, and we brainstormed for about 3 months. And of course, the head of state then, Jonathan, did tell us, discuss Nigeria, tear into pieces, but don't divide it. He was magnanimous, and that exactly was what we did. We brought out 600 resolutions we didn't vote upon on consensus to make this country better. There are very many. I can only refer to one or two of them, like the issue of security we have discussed. We did recommend state police. We also, in talking of, we also talked of restructuring this country as the basis for good governance. That once the country is restructured, well, other things will take place. We have so many committees on good governance where I served, on defense. We had so many to move this country forward. And, well, they are still left somewhere to be utilized. And unfortunately, there were previous recommendations, though not as far-reaching as this, that the government has not been utilizing. And that is why we're having all these problems in this country. We should try to have the courage to pick up these papers and make the best use of them. Nigerians made them, and they were not tied to political parties. We were there in 2014, irrespective of political ideas or wherever you came from. And we all agreed, without casting a vote, consensus on all the almost 600 recommendations. Why don't we summon up the courage to pick them up and make this country better? We plead with the head of state and those in power to do this. They should not allow the citizens to start forcing them. If, for example, the northern governors, northern elites are now saying that you must allow state police to exist, it's like now forcing them. people should not be. Let them go to all these documents. They were made by Nigerians, you and me. And of course, that is the duty of governance. Where somebody stops, you start.
But why do you think those recommendations were not successfully implemented, since they had vital ideas that could help the nation?
Well, the truth is that the recommendations were in about 3 parts. A part could be implemented through administrative fiat. Okay. A part could be achieved through legislative mechanism, whereby the various houses of assembly, Senate, and House of Rep, we have to give their consent. So on and so forth like that. So even if we were to start implementing all these, the recommendations, we will still be on them. It was not just a one-day thing. It had its own time frame to get executed. But for not starting at all is the problem. And like we have said, a single one like restructuring will have set everything in motion for this country. Once we say, okay, let's restructure this country, every state, yes, you are free to do this, and so on and so forth. Federal government, look, this is our limitation, blah, blah, blah. But unlike what is happening in America, where the states are free to initiate, here we find ourselves.
Well, this brings me also to Nigeria Constitution. Many people have said that the Nigeria Constitution were not made by the people, and so the present one we have should be cancelled, and then there should be a rebuild of another constitution, while some other people say that there should be a restructure of the current constitution. So which path do you actually support?
The constitution we are using now was not made by you and me. It was a military invention. And the military is no longer in power. So what we are saying is that you and me, civilians, we should meet and draw up a constitution of our own. If you read that constitution, you see how it started. So it didn't say we Nigerians. It wasn't drawn by Nigerians. So this is why we're talking of restructuring. We meet, we have no constitution. That one was not made by the democratic society. It was a military invention, not our own making. And of course, the military background is different from the civilian background. So that explains the spirit in the Constitution.
Well, do you think at any point that the youth have the capacity needed to rule this country?
Of course, yes. The youth is in a position to do a lot of things, to move this nation forward. The reservation some of us have is that the youth should not allow themselves to be teleguided by some of the leaders. They can. If they really make up their minds to do that, if they are not carried away by they are not lured by financial gains, if they are not carried away by money bags, if they are really serious, if they are serious as what we were when we were undergraduates, yes, they can. Because then we were determined, really very determined. I remember a time when, as one of the students leaders, we left the University College Ibadan campus, went to Lagos to demonstrate against the Anglo Defense Pact. And we were successful. We led the whole thing from Ibadan to Lagos. I think Thomas Benson was the Minister for Information then. He saw her because just one of the ladies I was talking went to him and removed his cap and flung it back in his face where he was not listening to what he was saying. But what is important was that we were true Nigerians, patriotic, and we got what we wanted. The youth can say do this, but we have our reservations. Because about them are into some bad areas now. Yahoo, fast lane, and things like that. So we are really very skeptical about some of them. But if they can listen, if they can control their excessive interest in fast lane ventures, money, some bad business, yes. Yes, they can. But we are not too sure where they really belong. Not too sure.
Although excuses have been made for some of the irresponsible acts of the youth these days, attributing it to the fact that the economy is bad, we have so many graduates.
No. I don't agree. Because the economy is bad, you have to do the bad thing. Because the economy is bad, you have to turn yourself to a murderer. Because the economy is bad, you have to start some fraudulent practices. Because the economy is bad, you have to be a kidnapper. No. Look, I wonder how many of us were conversant with a recent development where a young man who finished in Osun State University, after 6 years, when he went back to return his certificate to the authorities, and what was his argument? He said that no, it's no longer, you can't buy me job. It was stupid. And I'm happy at the response he had. In the university, your certificate can only get you can get you so many things. Can get you a job. But to have the man said that, I think, I don't remember the name of the man, Bola Kolawole, also of Tribune, gave 10 other good things. He got this from Google. 9 other things why you have university education. Amongst them, you go to the university so that the university can go through you and you can go through it. You go to the university so that you can multiply yourself. You go to the university so that you can diversify. So many reasons. Not because you go there just for you to get a better job. No. That was a youth. His son was, okay, let me get there and get a job. But luckily, the university system now, the government is trying to make it a reality. Some of these good things that, yes, get your education, but get some other skills for about a year or so.
Can political parties actually make themselves accountable for to produce mandatory awareness, positive awareness about the differences between culture and religion, to promote unity instead of using it against people?
Well, I don't hate people. I'm a Christian, and I have very good Muslim brothers. What is wrong in Nigeria is this: bad governance. I really don't care if you have good government, if all is well in this country. In civilized countries, Their leaders work. Sometimes they're not seen. But in Nigeria, it is simply because all is not well that people are trying to know who is a Muslim from who is a Christian. If you have good government, all these things will go into the background. This is my take.
Well, what are your words to youth and those people who are majorly used by political leaders?
Oh, they better stop it, because they'll be the losers at the end of the day. Honestly, there is something for everybody to do. It depends on who you are. What most youth say is that there's no job. What type of job? White collar job. That's the problem. That has got into their mentalities. So they can't think of other things. How to make themselves
relevant,
live, how to survive. Life is, if you have the philosophy for you to struggle to live and survive, it is then you enjoy it. But cutting corners, going the fast lane, you get a terrible roadblock. So we want to play with our youth. They should not see their parents or the society. They say yes to a point. But can't you try to live about a society that is bad? What is the value of your education? Please, let's think. It can be better.
Well, before we call it a close on this segment, I'd like you to tell Nigerians about some of the lessons they should learn from the bad decisions that have been made in the past.
What? Yes, we've made so many bad decisions, but now, let's open up our eyes and look at issues critically. Critically, before taking decisions. Our future, critically. What do we want? That's the way. We should not allow people to lead us by the nose. Let's be critical. Let's weigh and consider. Let's look at where we are coming from and where we are now and where we want to be before taking a decision.
Lastly, what are your words for Nigerians as they celebrate Independence Day and as they prepare for the forthcoming 2023 general election?
Let's be hopeful. God is good and kind, but we should not tempt God further. We've been tempting God. Let's be hopeful. Let's expect the best, but be part of those who are going to produce the best. Things can still be better.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program. It has been a wonderful discourse so far.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, this is where we'll call it a close on this segment with Basharun Sehindi Arubofa. And we hope to see you next time. Nigeria, we have a lot to gain and we have so many potentials. We shouldn't forget this. We have always been a great nation and we will always be a great nation. We just need to keep our hopes up and not do the wrong things. Stick to the right decisions at all times. Also, as you prepare towards the 2023 election, you should have it in mind that you go out there to vote and also vote for the right candidate so we can have a better nation. Thank you for joining us once again. This is where we're signing out. I'm Angela Daku. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.